Yamagarinda, Gangir Manjambaraba. Hello, how are you? My name is Manjambaraba. That is my tribal name, given to me by my great uncle Paul Spearham. My birth name is Alkira Field. I come from the lands of the Gomeroi people, the people of the red sand and the black soils. I would like to acknowledge the Darug people, who are the traditional caretakers owners of this land. I would also like to pay my respects to all other traditional owners of the Gadigal Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders of the past, the present and the future. I'd also like to pay my respect to the ancestors of the now, then and to come. I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the lands, to the dulus, the trees that sway to the sounds of the winds, to the gully-bargay, the waterways that nourish our roots, to the jigara, the animals that walk beside us on the lands our feet leave footprints on, and to the Mirigunagalangarriba, the stars in the skies up high that guide our ways and tell us the stories of our dreaming. As we take our next steps on country, may we walk in the footprints of our ancestors. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to LDI 2022. My name is Jennifer Ma Young and I'm CareerTrackers CEO. Like many of you, this is my first LDI event and I'm really excited to be joining you all. I joined CareerTrackers at the end of 2021, so I'm still in the process of discovering all of the amazing things that our community has achieved and is working towards. However, in the time that I've been here, what has been most obvious to me is the passion and the commitment of the team in supporting and celebrating your success. Before covering what to expect over the coming days, I thought I'd share a little bit about me. However, hopefully when the opportunity arises, we'll be able to meet in person. My career journey started in a small town on the mid-north coast of New South Wales on Biripi country, where I was born and raised in a large extended family. My identity is shaped by two ancient cultures, Kamilaroi on my mum's side and Chinese on my dad's side. My parents instilled in me a strong work ethic from a very young age, and I regularly worked in the family business from the age of 12. Like many of you, I was the first in my family to complete school and the first to attend university. I'm proud to say that after a very rocky start to my university career, I managed to complete 2 undergraduate degrees. When I look back at those years, I'm so grateful for the support of Indigenous leaders who took me under their wing and supported me and helped me to gain a belief in myself that despite not having seen it before, I could, with hard work and perseverance, attain a university degree, and also a belief that I was worthy of the opportunities that would be in my future. Our ancestors, even those 1 or 2 generations ago, didn't have such opportunities, like this one for example. or like the many other opportunities that await you at the end of your university years. The team at Career Trackers are here to walk beside you and support you to grab these opportunities with both hands and achieve what would have in the past been unimaginable career choices and freedoms, as well as prosperity, both personal prosperity and the prosperity of First Nations cultures. During 2021, Career Trackers progressed its aim to increase the representation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples on its board. As part of this plenary session, you'll be hearing from two alumni of the Career Trackers program who were appointed to the board in October 2021, Peta-Lee Moran and Todd Crawford. One of our amazing students will be interviewing Peta-Lee and Todd so they can share their experiences and journeys so far. You will also have the opportunity to contribute to this session with questions of your own, and I encourage you to do so. Following this, our new Alumni Program Manager, Darcy Giroux, will introduce herself and talk about the significant and exciting transition for our students who will be graduating from university this year. You will then hear from Anne-Marie Long, Senior Advisor in our high school program, who will share an update on our national program and discuss more aspects of our agenda for this week. When I reflect on 2021 and where we all were a year ago, I think we all thought 2021 would be a return to normalcy and the challenges we faced in 2020 would be behind us. Instead, those challenges seem to increase and life has changed significantly for many of us. While the past 12 months have thrown obstacles our way, what I know about Career Trackers and the students and alumni who are part of this community is that we never give up. Throughout 2021, many of you have remained in online learning and online internships. Instead of giving up and waiting for things to improve, you've put your heads down and got through the work facing those challenges head on. I want to congratulate each and every one of you joining us today for making it through 2021 and for not giving up on your studies and your dreams. Having the grit to manage during these last 2 years is something I hope you can continue to apply as you start a new year. None of us can be sure how 2022 will play out, and while I don't have a crystal ball, what I do know is that you can reach out to your advisor and one of your leadership team if you need support over the coming months. We are here to listen and help. What's in store for 2022 at Career Trackers? We'll continue to build our focus on what matters to students and our university and corporate partners. The last 2 years have thrown up a lot, and we're keen to understand what role we can play to ensure we increase our impact so that we can provide better and more supports to a growing number of First Nations students. Students in a broad cross-section of disciplines, those who haven't traditionally been offered opportunities, and more students from regional areas. We're also strengthening our identity as an organisation. We're committed to increasing our Indigenous representation at our leadership levels and now have a majority Indigenous leadership within Career Trackers, and will shortly have majority Indigenous membership on the board. This time of year is also when we traditionally gather together to celebrate the success of all of its components, not just our students, but importantly, our employment, university and community partners who support us and the students throughout the year and make what we do possible. This year, our gala event will be an online lunchtime event on Thursday, the 10th of February. The details have recently been released. Please reach out to your Career Trackers contact if you need that information sent to you again. You will shortly be provided with more information about this week's program. Please do yourself a favour and grab every opportunity with both hands. Take it all in, the advice, the tips, listen to the experts, ask questions and make the most of it. Your future self will thank you. I'll now hand over to our panel discussion. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to everyone. My name's Samuel Webb and I'm 22 years old and a proud Warramah man living in Newcastle on Wabbigal land. I'm studying a Bachelor of Secondary Education, majoring in PDHP and a minor in Aboriginal Studies at the University of Newcastle. With this being in my final year of uni, I'm lucky enough to be completing 5 internships with Career Trackers over the past 4 years. All of my rotations have allowed me to work at IAG, short for Insurance Australia Group, where I've interned with several teams who have helped support and guide me along my journey. Without the likes of my colleagues, advisors and mentors, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today, which I'm extremely grateful for. With this in mind, I feel privileged to be hosting the discussion today, who will be joined by the 2 newest members of the Career Trackers board and alumni of the program, Peta-Lee Moran and Todd Crawford. I'd like to hand over to Peta-Lee and Todd to introduce themselves and share a bit of their background to get started. Peta-Lee, if you'd like to go first, that would be great.
Awesome, will do. Thanks so much, Sam. Yama, everyone. I belong to the Gomeroi and Wiradjuri people from country New South Wales, but I acknowledge that I'm joining you from Gadigal country today. I just wanted to start and really quickly echo Jen's words. I want to congratulate all the students that are here. There's been a lot of uncertainty over the past 2 years, but the fact that you're here, you're not letting that uncertainty impact your internship and your university studies is so amazing. So congratulations, keep at it, keep showing up. But yeah, I guess a little bit about me really quickly. So I joined the program 10 years ago as a student, and it's crazy to think that the program's been going that long, or that I'm, about to turn 30. It scares me. But, when I joined the program, it was really, really small, and I was studying a Bachelor of Psychological Science at the University of Newcastle. I chose psychology because somebody said it would be a good idea, so I ran with it. I had no idea or guidance really on what the options were or what I should be doing. So I just picked it up and I ran with it. And my very first internship was with an organisation called Leighton Contractors, who have since rebranded, and you'd probably all know them as CPB Contractors. And I was in their safety and health team. And I didn't really understand the link between safety and health and psychology. At that point, I wanted to be a forensic psychologist, so didn't quite see how the internship played a role there. But I stuck with it. I knew it would be a really great chance to learn some transferable skills, even if it was just for the one summer. So I stuck with it and ended up staying with Leighton Contractors until I graduated, by which point I did work out the link by then. I saw the importance of psychology, especially in a construction organisation. But the best thing about my opportunity, beyond learning those transferable basic skills that we all take for granted, is I had the opportunity to explore the business and understand where else I might go and what else I might look at in a career. So I finished my bachelor's degree and straight away started a master's of human resource management, because I knew that even if I didn't want to be a HR manager, it would actually build my skills and my knowledge and open up so many more doors for me. So I straight away went into that while I was at the last little portion of my internship. When I finished HR, I still didn't quite feel ready to enter into a big, scary corporate doing HR. So I actually stuck around with CareerTrackers and became an advisor, and I eventually a senior advisor. So I worked with CareerTrackers for 3.5 years. I took care of students. I took care of corporate relationships, universities. I did all the amazing things that your advisors do. And I had a really great time staying embedded in community and staying working with our mob, which is so incredibly fantastic. But eventually I realized, okay, I have to go out. Eventually I can't keep the safety net forever. Trackers HR work for a little while. I was at IAG for a little while, Sam, so we've got a lot of links there. But I very quickly realised that generalist HR just wasn't for me. I think human resources is still incredibly important, but it didn't have that spark and that passion that I really, really looked for in the work I was doing. And so that led me to my current role, which is the First Nations Talent Manager at Lend-Lease. So my role is really amazing. It gives me the chance to support our First Nations employees here at Lend-Lease. I support through career progression, professional development, creating a culturally safe workplace. But probably one of the most exciting and rewarding things I get to do is I actually take care of the CareerTrackers relationship at Lend-Lease. So I've worn a lot of hats within the program. I started as a student, I was an alumni, I was a staff member, I'm currently a business coordinator, and most recently I'm really honoured to have put on the hat of board member, which is a big responsibility, but it's something that I'm really passionate and excited about to ensure the longevity of the program. So thank you all so much for having us here today, and I'll pass over to Todd now to tell you all a little bit about himself.
Hi everyone, welcome. Echoing Peta-Lee's comments, congratulations on being here. You should all be very excited. Just thinking back when I was listening to Jen's opening remarks about my first LDI was same as Peta-Lee 10 years ago. It was 80 people in that, and it was just such a special few days that really have shaped my life, which we'll probably hear about a bit later on. So congratulations and welcome. So I'm a Mandandangi man from Roma, Queensland, which is where I'm actually joining you today. So I started university in 2011 at QUT, studying a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering, a Bachelor of Finance, and then I did an honours in Electrical Engineering. My first introduction to the program was in 2012, where I interned at Worley Parsons in Melbourne, which was a unique experience. So I just, first time leaving a small town of Rome, I just started figuring out Brisbane, and then Career Trackers are like, we're going to ship you off to Melbourne. So, it was a challenging time for me as a, early 20-year-old. Did a stint at Worley Parsons for a while, actually did a internship at Career Trackers. And then more recently did a couple of internships at Macquarie Bank, which is where I am now. So I've been at Macquarie Bank in the asset investment team, so in the investment banking team for 4 or 5 years now, which are incredible opportunity. And it was, literally because of this program where I have this, incredible work. So more recently, the skills I've been learning from Macquarie Bank, I was pretty keen to give back to the Career Trackers community in a way. So when the opportunity came up to join the board, like Peta-Lee, we both jumped for it, and running through that process now.
Awesome. Thanks to you both for sharing that with us. Just to warm this session up, I'd love for you both to share your favorite memory as a Career Trackers intern. So Todd, if you'd like to go first, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's actually, I was a career student, basically doing 3 degrees. So I think, I don't know, I have to check if I still the record of the longest actual intern in the program, but I'd go close. 7 or 8 years I think I was in the program. So lots of funny moments in that, particularly at these weeks there was a lot of stuff going on. But I think the funniest stuff is kind of looking back at how much I've grown and things that just used to completely freak me out or fascinate me. Like, I've said the story before, but the milk in the fridge in the office just used to absolutely make my head spin. Like this huge, like they had like 3 or 4 fridges just completely full of milk, and I just like that. I would literally take photos every day of this milk. It just completely spun me out. Or the first time in a plane, which was because of Career Trackers, I just wouldn't, like, I'm like, you're crazy, I'm not getting on that thing. Like, there's just no way I'm getting on that. Like now I fly all the time. Or asking someone in the Queen Street Mall to tie my tie before I went to my Career Trackers internship interview because I didn't know how to tie a tie. So it's just like those sort of things I think are funny in hindsight, but also kind of quite meaningful to me. So that's what I would say.
And yourself, Peta-Lee?
It's hard. You can't pick one memory, right? I wasn't a student as long as Todd. Todd, I definitely think you've got the record for that one. But you can't pick one memory where it's your funniest or your favorite or the most cherished. There's lots of moments I talk about. There were times when, as an advisor, I'd see students who were completely terrified to even talk to me, their advisor, because they were just so nervous and hadn't built social skills, to then going on to interviewing and getting their opportunities and to then speak on stage at a gala. Like, those sorts of moments are indescribable. As a student, I guess some of the best things for me were having this community. I'm a very introverted person, and so I'd go to these events and I'd be terrified, completely terrified, to talk to another human being that I hadn't met before, because that was just completely beyond me. And I was really, really surprised at my first LDI. I was just sitting on my own because I'm an introvert. That's what we do. Find out a little bit about you. So my experience with the program, this amazing community, and the strength in the cohort of people coming through this program. So I'm sorry, I can't pick one, but it's all just been amazing for me.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. And, for yourself, Todd, to be here for 7 to 8 years is absolutely awesome. I don't think I've heard of another person, being a student in this program for so long. So well done to the both of you. Yeah, start with you, Peta-Lee. What's been your number one takeaway from your Career Trackers journey so far?
This is an easy one, to show up, I think. And I think that also speaks to the Reconciliation Week theme this year. But, we often undervalue the importance of showing up, being present, whether it's digitally like we have to at the moment, or physically going. If it's a meeting that you don't want to go to, or it's like an event where you're just like, oh, I'm not going to know anyone there. What's the point? I just want to go home. But, we can't, as a community, we can't influence change. We can't build professionally. We can't create a supportive community if we're not there, if we're not just showing up. So, and I think at least when I was younger, when I was an intern, I didn't understand that. If I didn't see the direct value for me right then, I wouldn't bother going or being present. So, and that's something I've definitely learned is show up, be present, be active, listen, because those are the chances that you're going to miss if you don't.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some key insights that you can get, not only with the professional development, but also your personal development. Being a student, being out of high school and fresh 18, I know for me it was quite daunting. But now that I'm 22 and been through quite a few internships, not as many as Todd, but I've definitely got some great takeaways from that. And yourself, Todd, what's been your number one takeaway?
Just wishing I was 22 again. My biggest takeaway is actually the same as Peta-Lee's, which isn't surprising because, we've both been in the program and it was, pretty drummed into us during our time through Career Trackers is, show up and do the work, right? Like the opportunities that this program gives you, I think is probably also one of my takeaways is you just never, when I was in the program, I thought, this is cool, get a job, just learn these skills. But now, you can recognize how significant and how huge this opportunity is. Like, fundamentally changed the course of my life, right, for the better. Like, it hands down, every aspect, like you say, Sam, both personally, professionally. I'm in a job that's highly competitive. There's 1,000 applications, and they take four of them a year, and I was one of them. And the reason why I was one of them was because of Career Trackers, as an example. But also the community, the network. So the biggest takeaway for me is, don't undervalue this opportunity, because like Jen said in her opening remarks, one generation ago, they didn't get anything like this. Like, my parents were like, holy, I wish I had something like that, right? And my advice and takeaway is to show up and do the work, right? Like, even this next few days, don't background watch. Make sure you're sitting there and actually paying attention and trying to absorb as much as you can. If there's an event, show up, because it's been those small moments where you're like, it's quite funny actually, but normally when you're like, oh, should I really go? Oh, I don't really want to go. Like, it's a Sunday afternoon, those times when you actually do show up are being the ones where you meet someone or something will happen. And, it's those small moments. You just got to show up would be my key advice.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Thanks, guys. Now, Todd, if you want to talk about being the alumni on the board, what does that role and responsibility entail?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because it makes you think, what's the role of a board? This is also probably an open question. So, and it will probably change as individual basis. But, how I see it is the board is there to represent the custodians or the owners of an organization. That leads you to who owns all Career Trackers. And I would say all of you own Career Trackers, right? So our job is literally to encourage, support the management team in the incredible job they're doing, and question everything from the aspect of the community and the students. Like, literally, we're there to represent your voice. The alumni aspect of it. So generally on the board, you want a different range of skills and different learned experiences, right? So me and Peta-Lee have a unique frame of reference because we have been in the program for so long, and we've gone through that program, so we know what it's like as a student. We know the struggles. We know, like you said, Sam, when you're fresh face and you're going to this corporate world for the first time, how hard that is. the complexity of COVID is an additional element of that. But our role on the board, as I see it, is to, just do that support, encourage, and represent, and make sure that career trackers are doing everything in our power for the students and for the community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it definitely also helps that you're both ex-students. You've been a part of the program. You're familiar with the structure of it. You know what it's like. So having that first-hand experience, you can't buy it. So yeah, definitely good on you guys. I guess with that, is there anything you guys, Peta-Lee, want to achieve on the board?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I know obviously Jen mentioned this in her opening statement, and it's something that we kind of put out on LinkedIn. But this is actually a really great time of change. The program is evolving, the organization is evolving, and that's natural evolvement, right? Like the program that was set up 10 years ago when Todd and I were students, when there was 80 students, is not going to be successful when we've got 800 students. So it is a time of great change, and that's exciting because there's more people that we can bring through. But at the moment, the most important thing that we need to be focusing on as a board, and I know this is something Todd and I are really, really focused on, is, at least for the foreseeable future, having a majority First Nations board, having that Black leadership, because how can we lead the new Black leaders coming through if we don't actually have Black leaders to do that work? And that's not to say that we haven't done that already. I think of the thousands of alumni in this program, and I am in complete awe of them. They are the most intelligent, influential, passionate people that I've ever met, and that's incredible. But if we want to be creating thousands and thousands of more, then we need the Black leaders to step up and to come through, especially now that we've got Jen as an amazing Black female CEO. Like, it's so exciting to see. So, it's time for the board to follow suit. So my goal during my time on the board, which is not going to be forever, like I will eventually leave the board. I don't think it makes sense for us to be here forever. I would like to one day pass the hat on to the new Black, thoughts coming through. But while I'm on the board, my goal is to make sure that we have a majority Black board, and that is maintained. That's my absolute priority, and that's not a non-negotiable for me, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. And Todd, I guess, is there anything you'd like to achieve whilst you're here as well?
Yeah, for sure. Echoing Peta-Lee's comments, but I think it goes a bit more broader than that. Like my focus, and the reason why I wanted to join the board is to try and bring in some of those lived experiences into the board and help support management, and in particular, try and get that voice of the students and you all in there, in terms of if I leave the board and the students are proud of what the board is, or can look up to the board and be excited, or go, that could be me. I had that with Michael McLeod. Like, he was an incredible leader. He took me under his wing. He looked after me, and that I felt that was very important. So for me, it's, in terms of going through this transitional period, is trying to get a board a bit closer to the students, and trying to get a board that you all can be proud of, right? And that you have a connection or a voice through. So if any of you have an idea of the board or have an idea of the program, that's what we're there for. We're literally there to represent, the community and the students. So that's what I will be, keen to continue that work.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, Peta-Lee, I guess you guys probably don't know if you're going to be on here forever, whether it's going to be short interim or not. So as much of an impact you guys, I'm sure will make, I'm sure it's going to put us in good stead for the future. I guess now that you are on the board, how would you like to see the Career Trackers program change or developed? Is there anything in particular or in mind that you guys have?
I'll jump in. I think these are things that Jen touched on in her kind of opening message as well. But the program is evolving, and like I said, so it should be. But we for so long the program has focused on very specific degrees and degree pathways. So, looking at some of your more business, finance, engineering, which is really, really important. But one thing the program is doing more and more, and Sam, you're a great example of this, is looking at students in non-traditional degrees, or degrees that are not traditional for the program. So looking at how do we support those students who are, not doing finance or not doing business? How do we support those students who are doing, education or nursing? And I know it's a really, really hard question and we haven't been able to answer that yet, but I'm so excited that that's something that Jen wants to focus on, because, so much of our mob are doing those degrees because we need support in those sorts of areas. So finding a way that we as a program and we as a community can bring those students and that knowledge in is really important. So that's one thing that I'd like to see. But also, again, this is something else that Jen mentioned. I promise I'm not copying her. And the lights have just gone out here. So sorry. One of the other things I'd really, really like to see us focus on as well is how do we really embed culture into the program as well. We've all had very, very different journeys with our heritage, and we've all had very, very different journeys with how do we bring culture to the workplace and vice versa. So I'd really, really love to see how we as a program and we as a community can support the students a little bit better in that realm. And again, I don't think that's an easy question because we come from, so many different nations. What's relevant for the Gomeroi mob is not going to be relevant for the Wiradjuri mob. But how do we still provide our students with some tools or some knowledge of how do you bring culture and workplace together? So they're two things I'd like to see us doing a little bit better. But again, I think that they're things that Jen's already touched on. So I'm really excited to see that they're in alignment, and I'm sure that's the sort of stuff that the students would be wanting as well. But if it's not, let your advisor know, let Jen know, let us know, because we want to know what's on your minds as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Todd, yourself, would you have any suggestions in mind of, what needs changing or what is prioritized so how we can move forward with this program?
Yeah, I think the Career Trackers program is incredible, and there's nothing that I would change fundamentally. But I think I agree with Peta-Lee. We'll be looking, even at the board level, we're looking at how do we embed culture and some of that element into like government governing documents, as an example, right? So trying to get that, weave that culture through a bit more is important to us. And trying to get that voice, like I said, of the students, particularly through the board level, is important to us. So it's more around tweaks and refinements. And that's, of course, before you consider, this new COVID environment and how that looks. The work the team done in the last 2 years has been absolutely incredible, right? Because, you've just completely changed the model from at uni in the units to at home. So it'd be, for me, I think the program's completely solid. It's just small tweaks around the fringes, but similar to Peta-Lee, particularly the point on voice. If anyone has a suggestion or has thoughts, just please reach out to me directly. I'll be keen to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys have seen it all. So, you were here when it first started. 80 people in the first LDI compared to now. It's crazy. My last LDI was in Melbourne, in the face-to-face, and it was amazing. I didn't realize how big this program was until, I went there and experienced it. So, yeah, thank you both for that. I guess, dealing with COVID, it's been a tough scenario for all of us over the past 18 months to 2 years. So we might start with you, Todd. How has that affected you? And what changes has it made for your working lifestyle?
Yeah, it's interesting. Depends when you ask me. Sometimes I'm positive about it and I'm like, working from home is good. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm over it and I want to be back in the office, right? So I've gone through waves over the last 2 years. I'm quite lucky with my job that the technology has been really good. So moving home, didn't really miss anything. We're already on laptops and all the VPN and stuff works fine. I think it's just that missing like this experience, right? Like missing that social, talk around the coffee room and stuff. Missing those small interactions is, can be quite important and quite a drain on your mental health, I think, if you go too long for that. Particularly, us in Sydney, where we went 2 very long stints without, literally confined to our houses. So it is difficult, but I don't know. It's incredible how the human brain just adapts, right? Like after a few months, you're like, oh, this is normal. And then once everything opened up again, I was like, what's all these people? Like, this is crazy. So it's definitely challenging. It's definitely challenging to remain engaged as well, particularly from home. Like, I don't know how you guys do it working from home or studying from home. I couldn't do it. I was one of those nerds that sat second row because otherwise I'd get distracted and, doze off. So, yeah, Peta-Lee.
I'd agree with you, Todd. I think I was also one of those nerds who was in the first or second row because I learned better in that environment. But I did all my studying from home. Again, I'm an introvert, don't really network with people very much. It's just not natural to me. So when it kind of came up that, oh, okay, everyone needs to start working from home, I was initially like, this is amazing. I never have to leave the house. I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to network with people and, fake smile. Like I was ecstatic for about a month. And then I got over it really, really quickly, because what I realized is I genuinely missed the connections that I had made in the office. I missed being able to just have a cuppa with my leader when I needed to get a bit of guidance, or even just being able to catch up with people that I'd worked with previously and built a good relationship with, and still caught up with. I had a couple of mentors I was working with, and I had to start connecting with them digitally, and it didn't feel the same. I felt conversations weren't flowing, which just made it really, really tough. So, like everyone else, it hit me, and it was really, really difficult. And again, I echo what Todd said. I don't know how the students have been studying from home and keeping that momentum and keeping on top of things. Like it's a real credit to you to have been able to do that. But we've been in this for a while now, like Todd said, and I have built a few tips. I am obviously in the office today. I didn't want to have any internet issues, so I came in. But what I've found is when I do get to go to the office, I try and catch up with folks that I don't get to see often, so that I can actually build a little bit of energy when I am here. So this morning I had coffee with a mentor just to touch base. There was no agenda. It was just I need to talk to somebody physically. But when I do work from home, I actually book in catch-ups with people, again, with no agenda. It's bring a cuppa, let's have a yarn, how are you genuinely going and what you need help with. But then I'll also, because screen fatigue is real, right, guys? Like, you need to step away from your screen. So I make sure I take my lunch outside now. Sometimes if I've got a meeting and I don't need to physically look at the screen, I'll just put it on my phone and I'll say, hey, I'm going to be audio only, and I'll go for a walk while I'm in that meeting, just so I can get outside and get some movement and, really, really engage. So, it's a tough new way of working, and I'm really, really hoping that there's some of these lessons that we've all learned about flexible work and taking care of ourselves and, finding other ways to connect that we can take into the new normal, whatever that looks like. But, COVID was a tough one. Still is a tough one.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, my third internship, 2 weeks before I was meant to actually work in the office, I was told that was going online. And it was quite daunting, because I hadn't studied online before that. Everything was on campus, and this is kind of when COVID just first started going. And you know what, we adapted. We did everything that we could. And it's the little things that you miss out on, like the small coffee catch-ups or just that social interaction that you have with your team members. And when you start working from home, you just don't get that, and it really makes you appreciate it when you get it back. So, yeah. So despite COVID, what's your theme for this year, would you say? We'll start with you, Peta-Lee.
That's a tough one, Sam. I don't know. I was reflecting on this. I'm a planner and I'm an organizer, and I like to know what's coming up. And I was doing a little bit of reflecting over the Christmas, New Year break as to, all the things that are coming up this year. It's definitely going to be a big year for me. And like, there's definitely some things I want to do that kind of build on what I accomplished last year. So, I guess this is a really great example. Last year I was really honored and privileged to be appointed to the CareerTrackers board. So this year I want to build on that, and I want to step up and say, okay, well, now you're here, what change can you make? So I don't know, I guess my theme for this year is stepping up or building on or something like that, going the next step, going from, I guess, good to great, I guess, would be my focus this year. But that's very off the top of my head.
Yeah, awesome. And Todd, yourself?
Yeah, tough one. I think for me, I'm a pretty simple person. So my theme every year is probably the same, and it comes back to my top tip, as you like, of showing up and working hard, right? So like my theme every year is literally the same. I'm the complete opposite, Peta-Lee. I'm not a planner. I'm not a goal setter per se. But yeah, I think this year there's a lot happening, both Peta-Lee with career trackers and work. Yeah, my theme is the same as ever. Is just put in the work and show up and do my best.
For sure. Thanks, guys. And moving on, so Todd, what's been your biggest achievement in the last 5 years, would you say?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think last 5 years there's a lot's happened, right? So I've graduated, joined work, gone through that process, promoted a couple of times, joined the career tracker. So there's a lot happened in that 5 year period. I'd say the thing I was probably most proud about was two things. First of all, getting a job at Macquarie in the team that I wanted and in the job I wanted. That was huge. That was really, really big. There was literally 800 applicants for that role, and in my intake they took 3, and I was one of those 3. So that was massive, and I didn't think I'd get it. I really, it was really touch and go. So that was huge. And then my learning journey on that period and how much I've grown in the last 5 years is also crazy. To be in a position where I can give back and join the Career Trackers board, and I hope make a positive influence from what I've learned in the last 5 years at work, is really rewarding. Throughout Career Trackers, there was a lot of very powerful, strong people that would help me just randomly, and I would never understand why. Always like, why are you doing this? Why are you a CEO of this company? Why are you helping me? And they always said, it's fine. Just when you're in a position to give back, do so. And I think within the last 5 years, particularly in the last 2 years, I've been in that position to be able to, I feel like, give back and have positive. So, that's been incredibly rewarding for me throughout that time.
Awesome. Good to hear. And I guess, Peta-Lee, would you have anything in mind, like a big goal that you've got that you want to accomplish in the next 5 years, let's say?
It's funny because as much as I'm a planning person, I'm not very good at setting goals. And don't get me wrong, goals are really, really important, and it's not great for me to be saying that I'm not good at setting goals to, a group of students who should be setting and achieving goals. I see that. But I've always struggled with it because it's really, really hard that when I do set a goal, if I've got the passion and the drive for it now, am I going to be able to maintain that for the 5 years or the length until I want to achieve it? So it's, and don't get me wrong, I do have lots of little goals. Eventually I'd like to see myself stepping up and leading a big, piece of work, or maybe do a PhD one day. I've got some personal goals like buying a house. Like I've got all these like little everyday goals, but I don't have that big 5 year, 10 year, like that's what I'm working towards. And I beat myself up for a really, really long time, especially when I was an advisor, because I was helping my students set these goals and I didn't have one for myself. And I was really upset because I'm like, you're supposed to have a goal. And again, if goals work, like absolutely have one. But I spent some time with some trusted mentors, and I actually, instead of trying to write the big goal, I actually got a better understanding of myself, my values, my passions, my non-negotiables. And I have instead been using those to drive myself, to drive the next actions and to figure out what comes next. And it's not as direct a path as having that clear goal and saying, I see the flag on the hill, that's where I'm going and that's how I need to get there. It is a little bit more windy. Some might say it's a little bit more fun, but it still points me in the right direction. So I don't have that big goal. You should absolutely try and set yourself one, but you know, I like to let my values and my ethics and my passions really, really drive me.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I guess from speaking to you two, I know that whatever goal you guys do have in mind over the next 5 years, or whether it be 3, 2, or 1, you guys will no doubt accomplish it. You've done so much for this organization, and even myself as an intern, you guys are a huge inspiration for me. I remember walking into this program for the first time when my sister introduced me to it, and I didn't really know what was going on, to be honest. First time in corporate world, and here I am still with the same company in my final year of uni. And you know, it's people like yourself, you know, Peter and Todd, that drive us interns, drive us advisors, and really get it going. So, look, I just want to say thank you for coming here today, being part of this discussion. And like I said, you guys are huge inspiration, so we can't wait to see what you guys can unlock in the future with all your success.
Thanks, Sam.
No worries.
Thanks, Sam. You've done so amazing, and we're so proud of you. So thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you. I'm now going to hand over to CareerTrackers Program Manager of the Alumni, Darcy Duro. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Darcy Duro, and I am an alumni of the CareerTrackers program, having interned in 2017. I'm excited to be stepping into the Alumni Program Manager role this year. It's a real privilege to have the opportunity to work with my peers and passionate, like-minded people. Here at CareerTrackers, we love a good pitch, so it'd be remiss of me not to share a little bit more about myself. Firstly, my people are the Bundjalung people from down northern New South Wales way, but I've grown up mostly here in Yagara country with my mum. We moved around a lot when I was young, so going to school was pretty hard, and I wasn't the best student until around grade 11 or 12 when we settled down, and I found people who believed in me and showed me the tools I needed to succeed. I jumped around degrees till I finally settled on a business degree at Griffith University. Once I joined CareerTrackers, I relished being surrounded by a community of my peers. I was part of the first CareerTrackers cohort at Suncorp, and what an experience it was. When I think about the impact CareerTrackers has had on me, I can get lost for words. I know for a fact that without my internship experience, I would not have had the confidence or skills I had when I graduated, or the competitive advantage of real life work experience. And arguably what I found most important for me, the comfort of knowing the community I stand within. After uni, I joined the Australian Taxation Office and worked in various HR generalist roles before joining CareerTrackers last year as an advisor. But that's enough about me. I want to congratulate you all on your hard work and finishing your degrees, especially during these times of uncertainty and online learning. You've persevered, and now it's time to celebrate you. For those graduating this year, you will have received a gold pin with your conference pack. This gold pin signifies your upcoming achievement of finishing your degree. The next 6 to 12 months is the final push. It's hard work, so don't get lost in the now. Remind yourself to stop and reflect on how far you've come and keep your why front of mind. Wear your gold pin with pride. You never know who will see it, but it is a symbol of your achievement and creates a safe space for current and future interns to engage with you. I want to reiterate that your gold pin and graduating is not the end of your CareerTrackers journey. You're a part of one of the largest groups of First Nations professionals. What a knowledge base to tap into, and what an opportunity to share your experiences with the next generations. In terms of your connection to CareerTrackers, your relationship with your advisor and intern managers are important, but advisors and managers change. What will always be consistent is your peers. Whether they're a CEO or in an entry-level role, they are your peers. Now, similar to when you began your CareerTrackers journey as an intern, you completed a program orientation. Likewise, I will hold program orientations for the new alumni over the coming weeks, so we can chat in greater detail about what's happening in the alumni community. So keep an eye out for this. For our students graduating this year, we are hosting a graduate panel discussion that will include early career experts from a number of our employment partners, sharing their tips and insight into their processes and the best way for you to stand out from the crowd. I fondly remember a similar session that I attended as an intern. It absolutely blew my mind on a lot of things, but especially what recruiters are actually looking for at an assessment centre. You'll receive your invitation to this session next week. For those of you who are in your first or second year, don't think this messaging doesn't apply to you. It may seem a ways off right now, but you'll blink and all of a sudden it'll be your turn to get your gold pin. If you want to know more about the alumni community, ask your advisor or reach out to me. I'm always up for a chat, and your thoughts and ideas are just as valid in your first year as your last year of uni. We're all at different stages within the same journey, whether you're in high school, a first-year intern, a seasoned intern, a new alumni, or have been an alumni for several years. We're all part of this community together, and it's our responsibility to continually shape and nurture the community together. Thank you all for your time. I look forward to the year ahead as your alumni program manager. I'll pass over to Anne-Marie, a senior advisor within the high school team, for a program update. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Darcy. Galangajali, sis, and Galangajali, everybody. How deadly is Darcy, and how lucky are we to have her in our community as an alumni and an alumni program manager? Really appreciate your words. So thanks for everything. Wonderful. Well, for those of you who I haven't yet met, maybe we've connected online or maybe we've connected in person over the years, but my name's Anne-Marie. I'm a proud Bachelor and Torres Strait Islander woman based here on the lands of the Yagara and the Turrbal people, in particular Careerpa here in West End. So Careerpa stands for Water Rat, which is something I'm learning through my beautiful roommate, Dr. Nari Blow, and I'm learning every day from my wonderful sister girls in the community. Much like many of you watching, I was the first in my immediate family to finish year 10 and go on to finish high school and into university. So look, my mum, she's a deadly Aboriginal artist. I loved Sandra Sully, the newsreader, and I loved dancing in my spare time. Naturally, if I was going to get a HECS debt, I wanted to do it with something I was passionate about. So I found out about this degree called a Bachelor of Creative Industries at QUT, which is where I met Todd Crawford actually back in 2011. I did a double major in dance and journalism, and really thankful to say that I followed my passions in storytelling, but also didn't know about the Career Trackers program in my time at university. So I found it really difficult in finding meaningful work that aligned with the studies that I'd completed and, you know, my bigger mission in life in supporting mob through extra opportunities that were out there. Then Google searching one night in 2018, I found out about the beautiful Career Trackers internship program. And what can I say? It has completely changed my life. I work, you know, in a job that I get to call an honor and a mission every single day with an incredible team. So for the past 3 years, I'd worked as a university advisor with a few of you watching, a few of you also based in Careerpa actually. And then upon recent times, in the last 10 months, I've worked as a high school programs senior advisor, which has been so wonderful working with a few of your younger brothers, sisters, little cousins, and friends, and so on. So a bit of a program update from me. Exciting that I get to use some of my newsreader skills, so you'll have to give me some feedback afterwards. Can you believe that we've had over 700 students completing an internship this summer? That is incredible. When you think about the pandemic and the, you know, the impacts of that, we've had many of you completing internships with whether they're at home, whether they're in person, or whether a combination of the two, you know? And if COVID has shown us anything, it's that we're a resilient bunch. We already knew that, but gosh, well, we pushed and God, have we delivered. So really, really awesome work to each and every one of you completing your internships to date. Can you believe it's the last final weeks of your internships as well? It's around that point in time where you're locking in your end of internship presentation. So this is the highlight for your advisor. You know, we really love coming along and watching everything that you've learned over the last few weeks. And, you know, you mob, don't be ashamed. Invite your C management along, invite your CEO even. We've seen interns do that in the past and it's real staunch. So invite your friends, family, those who have had a role to play in your success, such as your student success officer at university as well. So really looking forward to hearing about your end of internship presentations. In the next coming weeks, your advisor will look to book in your first monthly meeting for 2022. And what a great time to reflect on your achievements and think about some goals that you want to set for the first semester. Thinking about your internship, what you took away from that learning and what you want to endeavor to explore for the next few months ahead. Thinking about your study goals, some of those academic milestones that you would like to achieve. Goodness, I often think if I had an advisor like some of the team that we have here at Career Trackers, I would be able to achieve some pretty awesome things. And then lastly, but definitely not least, some community goals. Thinking about some goals you might have that tie back into your mob, you know, your country, your different missions as individuals, as part of this community. And that ties in really nicely with some of the work that we're doing with our high school program. So if you've ever thought about being a mentor or a buddy or wanting to show a young person around your office for 3 days in the life, let us know. My team, you know, Alira, Abby and I, we work all across Australia and we've been so fortunate to connect in with some of our youngest engineers and scientists over the last year. You know, this summer was the first time in history that we were able to launch our Work Shadow Week, our Work Shadow program for young mob in year 9 to 12. For students in Cairns to do their experience in Townsville and over in Perth. So looking so forward to the milestones that we'll achieve. And we have so many great online resources and online events to connect our national high school program together. So very excited to work with our young mob. You know, they idolize you so much. I can't even put into words how excited our students are about meeting interns in our program and alumni. So definitely put your hand up and let me know if you would like to get involved. Our dedicated team has had so much fun with the high school programs, and we're really excited to continue to support you through your internships beyond and in the alumni program. So here we are at LDI. You know, I was reflecting with some of the alumni earlier this morning about the size of the program these days, right? Some of our alumni were at the very first LDIs where there were about 18 students gathering in hotels. And now we have this huge community of thousands of deadly leaders. And you mob are going to change the world. We know that. So, you know, come together, share through your Career Trackers events app, some of your photos, some of your successes, and ensure to get the most out of this opportunity for LDI. Although we might not bump into each other in person in the water cooler during this week, we sure will be able to connect through our virtual means. So through the Career Trackers events app, which is super deadly, and loving seeing all your Instagram photos and videos coming through. Keep up to date with that agenda that you'll have access to in your emails. Reach out to your advisor with any questions, but we have an incredible lineup of some awesome keynote speakers and some really great staff that can instill some powerful messages and learnings. And, you know, if you see a workshop that might seem a bit similar to one that you've completed in the past, you know, still go into it with a very open mind. There's always something new that we can take away from the community and always new faces that we can meet. And you might even meet some familiar last names. You might see those on the screen as you navigate these next few days. Reach out. You know, I often share with my students, I've been really fortunate to meet cousins and aunties that I never knew I had through the Career Trackers family. So definitely reach out. Don't be a stranger. Get involved, ask questions, and be on time, just as you have for the rest of your summer internship experience. And I'm loving, personally, I can't get off this app. I've been DMing some of my colleagues and peers, and it's been really great to share with one another. And it'll be really exciting to share some of the results coming through in the Friday afternoon Big Buzz game session that we have coming up. So it'll be a really fun interactive session, competitive, so get your gloves off, and you'll need your message stick for that session. So if you haven't yet received your LDI pack, hang tight. You know that our team have been working hard to get them your way. You'll receive those by Friday latest so that you can participate in those really deadly competitions. We'll be sharing a survey as well on the Friday to get some of your feedback about how you've enjoyed this week. Just remember, you mob, this program is designed for you. It's a dedicated program for you and your experiences and what you want to get out of the Career Trackers family. So let us know how you found the week. Always open to hearing any suggestions that we can build year on year. Wonderful. Well, that is a close for our very first plenary session at LDI 2022. Really excited to connect once again with each and every one of you. I was reflecting, you know, on the march on January 26th. I was doing the Invasion Day march over here in Meanjin, and I was thinking about the incredible stories and the access to those stories I've had through each and every one of you in the Career Trackers family. How proud of you we all are. I know it's an echoing theme, but we really mean that, you know. The milestones you've achieved make us all incredibly proud, and I can't wait to see the next ones coming up. Wonderful. And also, I understand there was a little bit of a technical difficulty earlier in the session with Jen Ma Young's intro. So we'll be uploading her intro to the website homepage, so you can access that in your own time and hear from our deadly CEO. Wonderful. We look forward to seeing you in just shy of an hour for your very first session, the LinkedIn Masterclass, which is going to be really awesome to hear from our incredible leaders across the community. Nyanyambana, see you soon. Yawo, lots of love, everyone. Enjoy LDI 2022.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LinkedIn profile session for LDI 2022. My name is Luna Galaz and I'm joining from beautiful Bundjalung, New Gambia country at the Gold Coast. Now, I hope you can hear me. Our wonderful director of the university program, Sharon, told me that I need to project like I'm talking to a group of Year 9 boys, so I'll give it my best go. I'm a student advisor with the Career Trackers team in Mianjin, supporting our wonderful interns in Queensland and the Northern Territory. And I'm also the national contact for LinkedIn and the Career Trackers partnership. I'll be your room monitor and captain of sorts for today. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm joining from today, the Bundjalung and the Yugambeh people, and I pay my respects to their ancestors and elders, past, present, and emerging. I extend my respects to the traditional owners of the lands where you are joining from and extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here today. We acknowledge the traditional custodians' ongoing connection and care of land, sea, sky, and community on the land we work and live on throughout Australia, and we acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Now, for those who joined us at the plenary session, we received a very helpful breakdown from Anne-Marie of the Ignite event launcher app. Try saying that 10 times in a row. This is a very clever app and it's going to help us to engage and make the most out of LDI this week. If you miss these instructions, I'm going to give it a red hot go. So head to your app store, download the Ignite event launcher app and enter code CT2022 and enter your details. Here you'll have access to the LDI agenda, information on guest speakers, and be able to submit your questions during each LDI session. We are going to have a very exciting Q&A at the end of LinkedIn's presentation today, and I encourage you to send through our questions, and you can do so by clicking on interactive sessions, which is the circle in the middle of that grid that you have on your front page, and then clicking on the LinkedIn profile session from the list and selecting ask at the top right of your screen, and you'll be able to send your questions in. Now, speaking of guest speakers, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by the amazing team at LinkedIn for our second LDI session, focusing on how to make the most of your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn has been a great friend of the Career Trackers program for some time now, and we are also thrilled to announce that they are coming on board as an employment partner in 2022 and will be looking to take on their first round of CT interns. Today, we will be joined by Ariane Ritz, Senior Account Director, Marketing Solutions, and Rob Chavan, who is a Mid-Market Sales Manager. Ari has worked at LinkedIn for over 7 years and has worked in media and sales and the advertising industry for over a decade. Currently, she helps universities recruit students on the LinkedIn platform through advertising. Ari delivers research, runs workshops, and creates media plans for universities to build successful relationships with future students. Welcome, Ari. We are super lucky to have you on board. Rob has worked with LinkedIn for over 7 years and moved over to Gadigal country in Sydney from the San Francisco office back in 2018. Rob has exclusively worked with LinkedIn's largest clients, helping them to invest in recruitment, learning, and engagement solutions on the platform. Currently, he manages a team of mid-market sales professionals that partner with Australian and New Zealand clients in the talent space. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today, Rob. I think the best food I've ever had in my life, apart from my beautiful mum's, was in the Mission District in San Francisco. But I would say that the views are better in Gadigal country, and we're lucky to have you here today. So without further ado, I'll pass over to you both and leave our audience in your very capable hands.
Thank you so much for that lovely intro, Luna. Mission absolutely has some of the best Mexican food that you will ever have. So very welcome visit. If any of you have a chance to go to California, please connect with me on LinkedIn after this because I have some great food recommendations for you. So I am so excited to go through this presentation. I was actually thinking about it this morning and the opportunity to actually run through this with you all. I actually remember going through a very similar session like this when I was in university back in 2013. And it actually really transformed my vision on how I can actually be leveraging my professional brand. And it's something that I actually never really thought of is, okay, how can I start using these different social networking sites to actually help progress my career? So we'll be talking a lot about that today and how it really can help you all hopefully achieve some of your goals over the next 5 to 10 years. So if you go over to the next slide, I'll actually cover what today's agenda has in store for us. So where we're going to actually start is we're going to start off with a general understanding of what LinkedIn is. I think a lot of us have a general idea of what LinkedIn does, but how can it actually help you on a day-to-day approach to networking, building out more opportunities for yourself? I think it's even an area now that a lot of people use, specifically in COVID, to get involved in groups that may have been really limited on this new world, not being able to interact and be in the same rooms with people. I really wish today we were in a big facility, actually be able to do this face-to-face, but unfortunately we're not. So having areas like LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, those other social networking sites, they're great opportunities for us to really come together and network in this new digital world that we find ourselves in. So we're covering that along with how to actually build out your LinkedIn profile, and then actually building out a professional network as well. And then we're going to pass over to the lovely Ari, who's going to really focus on networking on LinkedIn and how to actually get the most out of applying for jobs and how to actually search this huge ecosystem that LinkedIn put together, along with some extra credit items that you can all take away from today to really boost your LinkedIn presence. So really excited to dive into all of this, and we'll get started right away. So if you can hop into the next slide. We actually started talking about food in this session, and that's exactly where I'm going to start with this live example. And one of the best donut shops ever is called Bob's Donut Shop near LinkedIn headquarters in San Francisco. And this slide was actually used in the first presentation that I attended back in 2013. And it was a bit eye-opening on how we use all these different social media sites. When you think about the Facebook, it's a place where we like content, right? And we go into the Snapchats of the world, and it's posting videos of us actually eating that donut. And then we go down that list of Spotify, us listening to the song Donut, or seeing a photo of our donut on Instagram. And these are all platforms that we use every single day. And there's a lot of times where LinkedIn might not necessarily fit into your day-to-day usage. And I think this is such an incredible platform that really focuses on your professional development over just this general content of photos. And if you go over to this next slide, it'll actually focus on how the donut really resonates in the professional world. So you can think about this as your experience actually making donuts, or if you wanted to actually work at a donut shop. And this is where LinkedIn kind of changes the game on a social media platform, is that this is a world that is going to be focused on your career, and it's going to follow you through this very unique journey that you put forward for yourself. And I love this platform because it's been such a big game changer for me personally on networking and building new relationships in new companies and groups that I've always wanted to really learn about. And what I hope that you get out of today is how you can actually be using this network to achieve those same goals. And if you have any questions post this meeting, I know we're going to do a Q&A, but I'm really big on connecting. So hopefully you can send over some information of things that you learned from the session, connect with me, and I'm always here as a networking tool for all of you as well today. So if you hop into our next slide, we're going to talk about what the LinkedIn network actually is today. And I started at LinkedIn 7 years ago, and I cannot believe how fast we've actually been growing. $50 million back team, and we're now over 800 million members globally. We've actually captured over 80% of the Australia workforce now being represented on the LinkedIn network. That's a massive opportunity when you think about the amount of data and insights that LinkedIn now has on the global workforce, and that number is not slowing down. We're actually growing at a rate of 2 members joining the network every single second of the day. And where we're really trying to get the most out of this network is really running sessions like this so you can understand how to be using this tool in your day-to-day life. I know I have to set limitations for myself on 15 minutes on Instagram a day, so I'm not scrolling throughout my feed all the time. With LinkedIn, I hope there's no limitations for you because there's an immense amount of opportunity for you to really be boosting yourself on that professional sense. So when we think about the opportunity of, sorry, just pause there. There we're back. I'm back. All right, perfect. So when we think about the amount of employers that are actually on LinkedIn, so we have over 30 million employers that are on LinkedIn. And we think about the talent acquisition and the recruiters that are on our network as well. We have over 2.8 million recruiters live on the network. And what does that mean for you? If we move over to the next slide, 9 out of 10 employers today leverage LinkedIn in their hiring process. So at the start of this call, we talked about how I actually manage a group of tech sales reps. So I have about 8 tech sales reps on my team today, and their job is to actually partner with the companies across Australia and New Zealand to help them leverage LinkedIn for recruitment. And one of the biggest tools that LinkedIn actually offers our partners is a tool that we call LinkedIn Recruiter. And what LinkedIn Recruiter actually does is it allows these talent acquisition, these recruiters to actually search our network for their desired talent pool. So they'll be looking up criteria of certain skills, certain graduates and backgrounds from the universities and locations and groups that you may find in Australia, New Zealand, and other global areas across this region. And why that's so important for you today is it really showcases why you should have the most updated information on your LinkedIn profile, because recruiters are using this every single second of the day to make their hiring decisions and create opportunity for yourself. So if we switch over to the next slide, there's going to be a couple different terms that I'm going to be using today. Mainly, they're going to be focused in 4 different buckets. It's going to be the workforce. And I know these are terms that you may have heard before, but we use this in a LinkedIn lingo. And what I mean by that is when we look at the workforce and we look at LinkedIn's vision, our goal is to create economic opportunity for the global workforce. We want to really open the doors for every single one of you. And why that's so important is you may have heard the phrase back in the day is you're only as strong as your network or the people that you know. We really want to change that and create that opportunity for everyone to know everyone across the workforce and allow you to connect with these people and create opportunities for yourself. So you're not limited to the regions that you're located in. You think about growing up in a Silicon Valley, you're next to a lot of people that are working in that area. But if you grow up in different regions that may not necessarily have access to the type of individuals that you want to connect with and grow with, it's tough to build out that network. And that's really where LinkedIn was born. We wanted to create this network and this ecosystem to give that opportunity to everybody. And that starts with connections. So we'll be also talking about the importance of connections and who you should be reaching out to actually build out your network, which falls into that third bucket. Is what is a network? What is a first, second, and third degree person in a LinkedIn ecosystem? And I'll actually showcase what that is and have a really great story on how LinkedIn actually changed my life at 3 different critical points for me. And the last thing is referrals. I really hope out of this session today, you'll learn the importance of connecting, leveraging referrals, because most of the decisions in the hiring world today come from you being connected with somebody. And we'll actually show you statistics on how real that actually is. So if we jump into the next slide, we're actually going to get into what it's like building out your LinkedIn profile. So one of the first things that you want to think about with building out your LinkedIn profile is how to actually set up an account. I hope a lot of you today have actually accessed the LinkedIn site. Over 50% of our traffic is actually generated through the mobile application. So if you hop over to the next slide, we actually put together just some direct links here. And I think we will be sending over some of these slides after the presentation. If not, I'll make sure that I send over the direct links. But you can set this up on any mobile app or just go into any desktop and set this up. It should only take a few minutes to actually get started with the LinkedIn account. And I highly encourage every single one of you to get this started at least this week. And hopefully we can encourage you and light a little bit of that fire to get started on this professional journey with us. So if we jump over to the next slide, one of the first things that you really want to think about is how is LinkedIn different than a resume? And when we think about resumes, we start to develop these when we're actually building them out for a job that we're interested in. So you may be applying to a new role or an internship to that company or that opportunity. But the difference with LinkedIn, and you're thinking about profile versus resume, is LinkedIn's a live snapshot into you. What have you achieved over your life? What are different programs and groups that you've been part of? And allows employers to actually engage with you. So this is a social networking site where employers not only can understand what your background is and what you're interested in, but they can engage with you and work with you towards this common goal that you may have set for yourself. So what I want you to think about is that resume is a standstill moment when you're applying for a job, where LinkedIn is that active, live world that you created for yourself that is continually evolving as you're working on different skills and fundamentals throughout your professional career. If we jump over to the next slide, what we're going to start with is just the basics. And I know this is a really funny one to share, but it's so important, and you'd be shocked at how many people actually don't have a LinkedIn profile photo. So what we actually see is that you are very, very likely to increase your followers and your connections if you actually start with this. I think the stats are 21x more views and 9x more connection requests which is actually a bit mind-blowing when you think about that and just a starting point for yourself. So if you could take a moment, I know the iPhones and other phones that they have nowadays have really great portrait modes that you can do for yourself, but this is the first thing that people see when they're actually engaging with you. So taking a moment to get a great photo or headshot done is really worth it, because when recruiters are actually going out into the network with that software that I mentioned before, they're normally scaling down all these profiles, and profiles that are actually not completed normally will fall on the bottom side of even job applies. So taking a time to just start with the basic fundamental of getting a photo up will really be a game changer on connecting to opportunities for yourself. And that'll fall into the next segment as well. So if you go to the next slide, it's focusing on editing your profile towards your story. And what I'm going to say a lot during this presentation is, what is a story and how does it actually follow you throughout this career journey? So we'll be talking about your summary and filling out your profile. But if you really look back at everything that you achieved, it could be your volunteering experience, it could be different programs that you've been part of, or different certifications. I'd love for all of you to really reflect on all the amazing things all of you have done over your life. And I'm sure there's a long, long list for all of you. And start putting pen to paper and start editing this into the LinkedIn system, mainly because this is how the recruiters and job opportunities are actually going to be searching and accessing information from you as well. So taking the moment to do that. And if we go over to the next slide, another key element is actually going to be building out your headline. So your headline is going to be the first thing that people read about your job and your opportunity as well. If you're not currently in a role, talking about being a recent graduate or getting ready for graduate or industry that you may be interested in. So making sure that you're filling out areas that you're really focused on. So when they read that highlighter or that elevator pitch about you, they get a really quick sense on what you're looking for. And that translates very nicely into the next slide. That's essentially revolved around your summary. So your summary is really going towards that elevator pitch. I really see this missed on probably 80% of profiles when I look at them. But this is an area, especially if we don't have a lot of career background yet, for you to explain what you're looking for in your next employer and really what your strengths are as an individual. When we're thinking about the global workforce and the talent shortage we're actually seeing right now in this current environment, this is your chance to tell your story and let the employers know why you're the perfect fit for the role they're currently recruiting for. So taking a moment to really reflect on these key areas will really be a game changer on creating that opportunity for yourself as well. So we'll dive over into the last couple of slides that I have before passing over to Ari. It's going to be focused on building out your professional network. So if we go into the next slide, this is exactly what I was talking about on the importance of building out a network on LinkedIn. 50% of hires really come from a personal connection. I'll let that one sit for a second. And that really goes with who you know gets you into your next opportunity. And I'll be sharing once again that story on how it actually helped me get here today with LinkedIn. So if we start with what a connection is on LinkedIn, if you go to the next slide, it'll actually show you what a first degree connection is on LinkedIn. You'll actually see this when you're connecting with individuals on our system. So a first degree connection is people that you're connected with. It could be your peers that you're in school with, peers that you're working with or doing internships with. These are people that you know on a one-to-one basis. But if you go into the next slide, a second degree connection is actually taking that a step further. It's the people they're connected with, right? So now we know if one of our friends or family members is connected with someone in an industry or a school or a job that you're really interested in, we could leverage our first degree connection to get an intro into that second degree. And we can even take that a step further if we go into our third degree connection, expand. And the law of averages is that we find a majority of the people that you want to connect with are within your third degree world. So starting to leverage and build out a trusted network that gets you exposure to these third degree connections will open up so many doors for yourself. And if we hop into the next slide, this is exactly how I found myself working at Amazon and moving into LinkedIn as an employer. I mentioned at the start, there's 3 key elements or points in my life that were critical to LinkedIn changing it. The first one being is that when I graduated from college, I actually had a business degree and had absolutely no idea where I wanted to work. And I actually built out my LinkedIn profile after a session similar to this. And funny enough, someone that was in my business school class actually posted about getting a job at Amazon. And I was so interested in that and really keen to learn about Amazon that I did exactly what you're seeing in front of you, is send her a connection to see if she could intro me over to the hiring manager to see if there's any similar opportunities. The next step from there was I actually got an interview from Amazon and actually started working into a role with them, which was super, super exciting for me because it was my first role out of college. And this started not for me applying to a job, but reaching out to my network for an opportunity. And what happened from there is I started to discover more and more connections, and I started to just love the idea of the LinkedIn ecosystem. So I started to put out feelers after 2 years to all of the hiring managers for LinkedIn down in San Francisco. And it ultimately ended up getting me a job in San Francisco by once again reaching out to my network and not necessarily applying to those jobs, but building out a network with the hiring managers that really fit the goals and areas that I wanted to improve into. And the last point of this as well is when we think about the international opportunities that we have, I always wanted to work internationally. You probably get it from the American accent. I'm not from here. And when I saw an opportunity for LinkedIn with a job in Australia, I jumped all over that, once again, leveraged my network, and it got me a move over to Australia to join Ari and the rest of the LinkedIn crew here in Sydney. So just an amazing opportunity. So what I'm trying to get at here is connections is such a key element. And if we move into the last slide that I have for you before Ari jumps on, I really want all of you to take a moment and start searching for the type of connections that will really start boosting your groups that you're interested in, the companies that you're interested in, and start getting active. Get out there, reach out, find mentors, and really start making a difference in your professional journey. And it all starts with you building this profile, taking a moment to really reflect on what you've achieved and connect with everyone that really resonates with the vision of where you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Ari. I think there's one more slide here, but we could skip over that last one because I'm just being cautious of time. And Ari, I'll pass over to you from there.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Ari. So lovely to be here and lovely to meet you all. I'm super excited. Just a little bit about me, what's not on my LinkedIn profile. I always like to say I'm actually a Kiwi. So I've been in Australia for about 12 years, and LinkedIn has been really fundamental for my career, being able to find opportunity. And that's the next part that I'm going to talk to you about today, is how you can really use this incredible platform to find opportunity and create opportunity for yourself. So one of the ways is to really expand your network that you have. And what I mean is connecting with people that you may know. So when you think about what kind of people you want to connect with, you want to connect with people who you have something in common with. You want to connect with people who may work in a particular job or industry that you're interested in, or people like Rob mentioned, who may be able to connect you to an opportunity or alumni as well. So I'm going to be talking about how to really create opportunity for yourself. And we're going to go through each of these in more detail, but I'm just going to quickly run through them. So the first is around messaging connections, and we'll talk about how to message and the right ways and some tactics. The next is around how to ask for informational interviews and what that really is. I'll explain in a second. Requesting referrals as well, how to ask, as Rob mentioned before, that was a great way that he actually got his foot into Amazon. He asked it for a referral. Requesting recommendations, finding mentors and people that can help you with your journey, and then adding value on the platform. So thinking about, well, what kind of content should I be sharing? What kind of groups should I engage with? Now, actually, a story about me and LinkedIn. Funnily enough, I got my job at LinkedIn on LinkedIn. So I was working at a company about 7.5 years ago, and unfortunately the company was going out of business. And so actually very similar to this session, we had someone from LinkedIn come in and give us all their skills and tips around how to find our next opportunity. And funnily enough for me, actually an old colleague I worked with saw that I had put in my profile that I was looking for opportunities. They reached out to me. I actually called the hiring manager because I was very keen to work at LinkedIn, and that's how I got my opportunity. So it's all around for yourself as well. Slide. Hopefully you can still see it. I'm not sure if I can see it. Oh, yep, sorry, I can see it. The image has gone a bit small. Technology. So Rob mentioned there's a lot of stats he showed you before around, the importance of having a community and connections on LinkedIn. So we see that LinkedIn members are 4 times more likely to get hired when referred. And exactly that happened with Rob, and that happened with me as well. And we'll talk in a minute a little bit about how to get referred. So if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk about informational interviews and what exactly that is. And that's what Rob spoke to before. It's a really great way to find out about a company or a role before you actually go through that interview process. It's also, it can give you an upper hand in that interview process because you probably will find out a lot more information about what's going on in an organization that you can share once you go through that interview process. And that really shows that you care, you want to know more about the company, and that can also help you hone what kind of stories you're going to share in your interview. So this is a really great example. I'll read it out to you because it might be a little bit small, but it's from Kate. And Kate wanted to essentially be a brand communications or be in brand communications. So she found someone in her network who worked in brand communications, and she reached out to them. And the best way to reach out to someone is really making sure that you're very clear around what you want, why you're reaching out to them, and give them a really specific time that you're going to ask when you're meeting up with them. And I'm going to read you this email because I think it's a really great message that Kate has sent to Erin on LinkedIn, and I'll read it out. Sorry, I'm just looking at my other screen here. So it says, "Hi, Erin. I'm currently exploring careers in communications, and I admire your experience in the industry. I'd appreciate the opportunity to hear more about your journey. Would you be available for a 20-minute chat over the phone in the next few weeks?" So you can see it's really specific around what kind of time frame and how much time that person will invest with you. So this is a really great example of expanding your network. And we'll speak to it as we move forward as well. But I heard today that there's 800 of you from CareerTrackers, current students and alumni as well. That is an incredible network already that you can leverage. And an alumni is one of the best networks that you can leverage and start connecting with today. So if we move on to the next slide, we'll look at requesting referrals and what exactly this is. So as Rob mentioned, you saw some stats before around people getting hired when they know someone within an organization or a company. So for example, if you send me your CV and I send it on to the hiring manager or a recruiter in the company that I work for, you're much more likely to have your CV looked at because the hiring manager and recruiter know who I am. So what you can do is you can actually use your network and have a look at who you might know in an organization, maybe go through alumni or past colleagues. Or if you don't know them, it is totally also okay to reach out to people and ask to find out a little bit more about the role. So I'm going to read you this email because, again, it's really great, really short and sharp and to the point with a strong sort of call to action. So Kate has reached out to Seth because she's seen a role at FixedX in communications, which we spoke about. She was really interested in. So she reaches out to him and she says, "Hi, Seth, hope you're doing well. I saw that FixedX is hiring a communications specialist and I'm very interested in applying. This role seems like a great fit for me because I'm a self-starter who can operate in a complex environment. Would you be willing to share any information on the position, the team, and what they might be looking for in a candidate?" I'd really greatly appreciate that. And what I'd probably also add in this message, if I was sending it to someone, is, are you free next week or in the next few weeks for a 20-minute chat? Again, giving someone a time frame so that they know that your time is valuable. So at LinkedIn, for example, I organize organizations, people referral link that they can send you to apply for a job online. Typically for me or Rob to send a referral link, we do have to have worked with someone for a specific amount of time, but we're always happy to pass on CVs as well. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about requesting recommendations and what exactly that is. So Rob, before he spoke about, the difference between CVs and what LinkedIn is like. So in your traditional CV, once you've gone through the interview process and you've actually got that job, often the hiring manager will call up your references and find out a little bit more about you, what it's like to work with you, any great achievements, and anything that they should need to know. With recommendations, you can actually reach out to past colleagues, people from career trackers, any alumni. You can reach out to people who maybe you've worked in a sports team or been part of a sports team to talk about what exactly you are like in a team environment. And they can actually put that recommendation and write a recommendation, which then sits on the bottom of your LinkedIn profile. And it's really great for recruiters then when they're looking at your profile to go down the bottom and get a sense of what other people have said about working with you. So we'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So the next slide is all around how you can add value and engage with your network. So we spoke about investing time in connections and requesting informational interviews. The other thing, like a lot of you are doing today, is joining these incredible programs. I actually had a mentee come to me through a LinkedIn coaches program, and we run these every couple of months. And it's a really great opportunity to connect with people inside of LinkedIn. Now, the mentee that I was speaking to, she was really interested in podcasting, and she hadn't worked for a while because of COVID, and she was really looking for her next opportunity. And because I've been, working in Australia for almost 12 years, I actually have a lot of connections. And I remembered someone that I worked with almost 10 years ago who now had a podcasting company. And so after the call, I introduced them. And actually a couple of months later, there was an opportunity that came through to me around teaching podcasting that I could pass on to this mentee as well. So take up every opportunity that you can to meet people, because you'll never know what other opportunities they could have or pass on to you. The second thing is really around engaging on the platform. So liking, sharing, commenting when other people share updates or articles or things that you find interesting as well. The third one, and Rob spoke a bit about this as well, is joining groups. So joining alumni groups, joining special interest groups. Maybe you're really interested in sales, or you're really interested in artificial intelligence or sports or whatever it is. And if you join these communities, that's also a really great way to find new and different connections that might open up a whole new group of possibilities. The final is around also giving testimonials and recommendations to other people. That's also a great way to engage on the platform. All right, so let's move on to the next slide, please. Great. So the next part, or the final part we're going to talk about, is actually how to search and apply for jobs on LinkedIn. So we'll talk about how to set your interests. We'll talk about how to search for jobs, how to create alerts, review jobs you might be interested in, follow companies, and finally apply. So if we move on to the next slide. So as you'll see, we actually have about 25 million people every week that jump on LinkedIn to find a job. And so many thousands and thousands of companies and recruiters are looking for people to fill jobs as well. So if we go on to the next slide, please. When you're setting up your LinkedIn profile, you'll actually see that you can set career interests up. So you can put what title and also what location you're in as well, so that you'll get jobs served to your particular location. Now, one of the really great things, which is pretty new to LinkedIn, and it wasn't around when I a decade ago when the company I was working with was closing down, was there's a new functionality you can actually set an alert for, which says that you're open to opportunities. And what it does is it actually creates a green ring around your profile picture, so recruiters can really easily identify who's open to opportunities. And what you might also notice on the platform is that hiring managers or recruiters will have a purple ring around their profile pic when they're looking for candidates. So, if you see that purple ring and there's a company that you might want to work with, it could be a great idea to connect with that member on the platform. So we'll go to the next slide, which is around searching for jobs. So searching for jobs, it's really pretty easy. So once you've created your profile, you'll see that there's a jobs tab that you can click on, and you can set up your search criteria based on, again, location, job title, industry, function. And a function is really a role that you play within an organization. So Rob and I, we actually both are in a sales function. And then you can also look at date posted. So always important to try and get the most recently posted, and I'll share a stat with you why in a second. So I'll move on to the next slide, which is around creating search alerts. And again, this is to make sure that you know as soon as a new job comes out that you might be interested in. And what this does is once you create a search alert, very similar to how you'd look for jobs, again, you can choose location, title, skills, company, etc. You can create an alert, so you'll actually get an email sent to you whenever there's a new opportunity. So that way you have your finger on the pulse around what's going on. So if we go on to the next slide, this is around really, again, searching for jobs. So once you've set up all your filters, and once you've actually set up your own LinkedIn profile, jobs, you'll actually be served jobs or sent jobs that are within your industry, that are similar to your job title. So it's a really important and great idea to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. Now, if we go over to the next slide, I think for me, this is one of the most important things, and I think this can really help candidates stand out in the interview process, is around following the company that you want to work for, following their competitors, following companies whose industries that you find really interesting. It's a great way to get real-time information around what's going on in that industry or that company. So when you're having a conversation or when you're being interviewed, you're really knowledgeable around what's happening. You can also click on a life tab on the company page. So that's a tab to show you what it would be like to actually work at that company. And you sometimes hear from different employees around what their experience is like or what that company values, to see if it aligns with what you value as well. Now, really interesting thing is that recruiters actually filter for candidates they can see if a candidate's followed a page. So if you're actively looking and if you're actively engaging with that page's post, recruiters can actually search for you so that they know that you're interested. So I think that is one of the easiest things that you can do, and it can really help you stand out. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is around actively applying for a role. So you'll see when you actually have a look at the jobs tab, you can actually click on roles, find out a lot more about what's on them, and you can actually apply right there online. So you can save your CV onto the LinkedIn platform, or you can upload your actual CV. So CV sometimes has a little bit more information compared to your LinkedIn profile. It might have a blurb. You might even have a cover letter for that specific company, telling them why you'd think you'd be great for a role. So you can upload that and apply just like that. So it's really, really easy to apply for a job. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about extra credit. And I saw there was a question that just came up around privacy as well. So I'll definitely speak to that too. So some additional features and guidance around the platform. So a couple of things you can do is you can explore schools, alumni. That's a great way to build connections because you have something in common. Joining groups, which we mentioned before, and we'll definitely talk about privacy settings and some of the features that you can change on there so that you feel comfortable. So schools, so if you, depending on what university you've gone to or what school you've gone to, you can actually say that you can tag that school on your profile so people can see where you've gone to school, what your education has been. But if you go onto a school's company page, you can actually have a look at the alumni, and you can have a look at where the alumni of your particular university or where CareerTrackers is actually working now. And you might find that someone from your alumni group is actually working at a company that you potentially want to work at. And that is the best way to reach out to someone and say, hey, I saw you also went through CareerTrackers and I see that, you're now working at Microsoft. I'd love to have a chat about your experience. So that's one of the best ways to definitely build connections. So if we move on to the next slide, I think we've spoken about exploring alumni. So we'll move on to the joining groups slide. If we can move on to there, that's all around finding like-minded people who are interested in the same thing. So you can definitely find your alumni. There's a lot of alumni and university school groups, but then there's also special interest groups that you might find. So my dad, he's a scientist and an engineer, and so he's a part of all some wacky groups that are way too smart for me, and he loves going in there and sharing ideas with different engineers and scientists. So you can find all sorts of interest groups, and that's also a really great way to build connections and build opportunity and share really interesting findings and knowledge on the platform. So the final slide I'll be talking through before we'll open up to questions for Rob and I. So I think we're right on time for you, so we've got plenty of time for questions. It's just around privacy settings. So you can find your privacy settings when you set it up just on the Me icon on LinkedIn, and you can change a whole host of settings based on like who can connect with you, who can see your profile image, who can message you. So for me, I keep mine pretty open because I want people to be able to follow me. I want people to be able to see the content that I'm posting. As Rob mentioned before, if you have a picture, people are most likely, you get more clicks on your profile. So I actually have my privacy settings pretty open. The only thing that I've changed on my privacy settings is I kind of like to go incognito when I look around at people's profiles. I don't want them to see that I'm looking at their profile. So I changed that. Whereas a lot of recruiters, they want you to know that they're looking at their profile, so they won't change that. And some people are happy as well to let others know that they're looking at their profile. Maybe it just says more about me. I'm doing some real sneaky looking on the platform. But that's it. I really hope that was helpful for today. Please feel free to connect with me as well. I know Rob said that, if anyone wants to have a career conversation with me as well, please reach out. I'm always happy and available to have a chat. And I'm really excited for all of you and your journey on LinkedIn. So thanks so much for having me. And I know we're going to pass over for questions now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Rob and Ari, for your presentation today. I think something that really brought home Todd Crawford's and Peta-Lee's message of showing up is that you really don't know who you're going to meet and where you're going to meet them, and how much of a critical role they might actually end up playing in your career trajectory and also life. So I think the theme of connections that really ran through your presentation today was incredibly valuable for all of our interns and alumni to learn and hear from. Now I'm getting some incredible questions through here on the chat. I feel like I'm at Mission control, but I'm sure my students at Boeing and Air Services would tell me it's nothing like this, but in my head it is. So the first question that we have coming through is from Mr. Sam Walker, and it's a question which I find very interesting around algorithms. So he said, "Hi, Ari and Rob. I've recently joined a new job where I'm helping to establish a new business practice in a very niche field. One of our challenges, especially in COVID times, is market education and basically getting our name and brand out there. I understand LinkedIn uses an algorithm to push certain posts to the top of people's feeds. What does the algorithm look for in posts and content to make sure it's being highlighted?"
Great. I might take that one because I'm in marketing solutions, so I talk about content marketing all day long, and there's definitely some tips and tricks to make sure that your content is seen. So a couple of things to think about: video at the moment, and this is across all social networks. Typically gets a lot more views and engagement. So if you can share any insights or research or anything via video, I would definitely recommend that. If you saw Rob's graph before around connections and third degree connections, when you tag people in your posts, so if you're sharing a post from your company or personally, when you tag people that might be relevant or might be interested in that post, your post then goes out to more and more and more people. So think about who is relevant, who's the right person to include in a post, and then also think about using hashtags. One thing I think is the most important thing is when you're posting on LinkedIn, think about what value are you going to bring to the member. So LinkedIn's algorithms favor content that is going to help the member. So always think about, how is this piece of content going to help someone else? What lesson or what's something that I can share? And that's when the algorithm will help surface your post. I'm not sure if you have anything to add, Rob.
Just finding the unmute button first. No, that's spot on. And it goes exactly back to what we mentioned before on also the importance of having your profile completely updated as well, because if you want a really good news feed that resonates with content that you're interested in, the system needs to understand what industry you work in, what groups you're following, who you're connected with. So it actually could give you the type of content that you want to see on a daily basis. So yes, it's all algorithm based. And going back to what you mentioned, when you're thinking about this content, think about what your audience will engage with. And that's typically what's going to sit at the top of the newsfeed for the people you're trying to target.
Great. Thank you so much, Ari and Rob. That was a really valuable insight that you offered us just there. Now, next question is from the wonderful Zoe McCarthy, who is a student advisor down on our New South Wales team. She's asked, is it okay to connect and follow people you haven't met before on LinkedIn, or should I only do this with people I've met and not their network?
That's a great question, and absolutely go for it. And I think you always want to lead with a reason to reach out, right? I think we've all maybe got those connections when there wasn't really a purpose, and maybe you decline those or not, where it's like, I just want to connect to you because, you know, I want to be your connection. And I'm like, okay, well, why do you want to meet, or why do you want to actually connect with me? So thinking as a hiring manager, you know, I'm always hiring for new tech sales leads. And, you know, I got quite a few in-mails, and I have a lot of people that send me really great messages to connect with me. And I think the important thing is reaching out to people and maybe leveraging a first degree connection that you have. So knowing that they're connected to someone that you know personally, and asking them why you actually want to connect. Well, not asking them, like requesting why you want to actually meet with them. So, hey, I see that you work at Google or Amazon. I've always had a really great passion to work for a company that works in this industry, and I'm really keen to, you know, dive into a chat with that with you. That gives me an understanding of why you want to connect with me. So it's absolutely okay for you to do that, but just make sure you have a purpose and a reason for reaching out to a second or third degree connection on LinkedIn.
Great advice. So our next question is from Jody Hickson. She says, does LinkedIn Learning give you extra credit, and how can the certificates help?
you want to take that one, Ari? I'm happy to if you want me to. Oh, I think you're on me. I'll take it. So LinkedIn Learning is actually some of the software that we actually sell out to a lot of the partners that we have across here, Australia, New Zealand. Absolutely amazing, by the way. We actually acquired this company called Lynda about 6 years ago. It's actually based out of Santa Barbara, and believe it or not, it's actually one of the top 3 content producers globally. They have about 15,000 courses live today. So immense opportunity for all of you to leverage that to actually develop a lot of different skills that you may be interested in. And it looks like a Hollywood facility. It's so cool in the middle of like this beach town in Santa Barbara, but I'm going to go back to the actual question now. So LinkedIn Learning is such a great resource because you can actually do certifications. And what a certification actually showcases is that you are thorough in whatever you got certificated in. So you think about Excel or different programs, maybe in engineering, it's Java or any other certifications that you may actually need. That allows the recruiters to know that you've gone through a thorough certification and it's been vetted by LinkedIn as well. And what recruiters will actually do is they may require that some of the people they're recruiting to have these certifications, and they actually use that in their search criteria to find people that have that certification so they can actually offer them jobs and opportunities as well. So it's absolutely worth the time to get certifications in some of those key areas because it will actually open up some really great doors for you and communication from the recruitment team.
Yeah, I would just add to that as well. There's some really exciting things going on at LinkedIn at the moment. So the University of South Australia, we're working on our first beta with them with LinkedIn Learning. So moving forward in the future, you will actually be able to get some potential course credits by doing LinkedIn Learning as well. So we're in the very early stages of testing that out with one university and a whole host of global universities as well. So there's some really exciting things going on with accreditation and LinkedIn Learning as well.
That course credits sounds very interesting. It'll be really cool to see how that goes. I know a lot of our students would be interested in something like that. Another question has come through from Cara McGoldrick, another brilliant advisor down in our New South Wales team. And Cara has asked, is it appropriate to add some personal hobbies or interests to your LinkedIn profile that are unrelated to work, but it says a lot about your personality?
Absolutely. Yeah, I highly encourage talking about what you're interested in on the platform, any hobbies that you have as well. I think it's really nice when recruiters can get an understanding or a feel for what you're interested in too, like including, like whether you're painting or you're part of some sports teams or whatever that is. So one of the things that I've included on my profile, if you go and have a look at this, is a committee that I worked on. So for LinkedIn, I worked on a women's committee, and it wasn't part of my day job, but it's a really great way for people to see what else I'm interested in. So I'm very much interested in helping women in their careers, so recruiters can see what else I've done. So absolutely. Rob, would you add anything there?
Yeah, I love that. And I love when people actually do that as a hiring manager going back. And that goes back to the title that we talked about on building out your profile. Like some of my favorite titles, you'll see people say like dog dad or super mom of 2. And I just love like making it like really humanize it, right? I think we're all working from home and seeing LinkedIn profiles that are really fun, that kind of mix your personal life with your professional, obviously keeping it on the professional side, but getting an idea of who you are and what is really important to you, right? Because our families and our friends, and there's so much important things in our life. And you think about the world we're moving to, we really want a good work-life balance. So I want to employ people that, I get a good feeling of who they are and someone I could resonate and relate with as well. So yes, leverage that title. You see some really funny ones and fun ones on LinkedIn as well. So do a little bit of research and I think you'll get some great ideas.
Very cool. Robin, Ari, could I ask what's your title? What's the title you've had on your LinkedIn profile before?
Ari, you want to go first or do you want me to go?
I'm looking at LinkedIn furiously like, what have I said? I think mine's all about, my title is helping marketers drive business on the LinkedIn platform. So when I think about my title, I just want people to understand exactly, what I do. So if marketers are looking for someone at LinkedIn, they know that I might be the right person to help them. Rob, what's yours?
Yeah, so it recently changed. It used to be Proud Dog Dad because I recently got an English Bulldog, so that's changed over. But now he's all loud. You know, dogs when they get to 6 months, they're always a bit of a pain. But so I've had some really fun ones that really change on like what my vision and values are going on. So there's time where I've been helping people social selling or just helping recruiters trying to transform their careers. So you could have titles of transforming recruiters into like the next superstar or stuff like that. It's not like what my job title is, but it's a sentence maybe on what I'm currently doing and what I'm really passionate about as well. So you'll see some really fun ones on there. I've seen some sales reps say that they're the LeBron James of selling software. You just see some funny things that are just on LinkedIn. But yeah, get creative. Mine changes literally monthly. So yeah, just some different ideas for you.
Yeah, very cool. Someone should put the Ash Barty of sale. Am I right, guys? Anyway,
yes, that was
we've got time for maybe one more very quick question before we have to close off. So Teresa Tupuola, who is an incredible advisor on our Queensland team, has asked, for people who are worried about privacy and internet safety, would you recommend sending private messages to second or third degree connections as a first-time introduction and wanting to connect?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, I'll always recommend private one-on-one messages when you're connecting. So when you actually connect with someone on LinkedIn, it'll actually give you a message box on the reason to actually connect. If you're actually a premium member, you can actually send what we call in-mails, and you don't have to be connected to the individual to actually reach out to them. A lot of people use the premium account for their job hunting and other opportunities as well. But I always recommend maybe a personal private message because I have seen sometimes people putting up, tags or on their wall as well, and it just doesn't really resonate, especially if they're not able to meet with you. The direct message maybe is the best way forward, and then if you build that connection, you can start leveraging more of that social networking approach on LinkedIn, where you're tagging and engaging on the more public eye view of LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Rob and Ari, for taking that time to share some of your answers to the burning questions in the CT community. And thank you so much for your time today and for being so generous with your knowledge. And I'm sure we're all going to be on our LinkedIn profiles this afternoon, absolutely jazzing them up. So thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to Keely Hughes, who is one of my wonderful students. She's been with the CT community for almost 4 years now, and she's currently interning with Westpac on their risk team. And she would just like to say a couple of words of thanks on behalf of our audience. Take it away, Keely.
Yes, thank you, Luna. So as Luna mentioned, my name's Keely Hughes, and I'm a proud Turrbal and Yagara woman. Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing the insights that 9 out of 10 employers use LinkedIn. I know for myself, I have got notifications when potential managers have viewed my profile, but I did not realize that 30 million employers were on LinkedIn. And Ari, thank you so much for showing and sharing how to create opportunities for yourself and giving examples of Kate regarding what to include in messages. I would now just like to take a moment to thank the both of you for your time, effort, and support. Being a university student and a CareerTrackers intern, I'm always looking for more ways to improve my LinkedIn profile. So I not only speak for myself, but also on behalf of the whole CareerTrackers family. We appreciate the time you both have taken today to share these wonderful tips and tricks. Once again, thank you both very much for your time today. It has been amazing having you both with us. As a gesture of appreciation, CareerTrackers will be sending you both a gift. Now, this concludes LDI Day 1. We look forward to virtually seeing everyone tomorrow for Day 2. Thank you.